COVID-19 has had a major impact on tourism and international travel, with Singapore among the hardest hit destinations. But the Singapore Tourism Board has plans to use technology to help the industry build resilience during this period.
Now, for more, we're joined by Keith Tan, Chief Executive of the Singapore Tourism Board. Keith, thanks for joining us this evening. Now, we know that it's not been good for the tourism industry. How bad has this pandemic been?
Well, earlier I had said that we anticipated a 25 to 30% decline in visitor arrivals this year. But with the travel restrictions that have been put in place since then, both from Singapore and from other countries, then naturally there will be a more serious decline. So in March, the number of arrivals fell by 85% year on year. And I expect that figure to go further down with all the various travel restrictions that have been put in place.
So, Keith, what kind of a future of travel do you think this region and, globally will see when, things start to get a little bit better? Also, you mentioned there's a serious decline. How soon do you think recovery will be?
I don't think recovery will be anytime soon because of all the restrictions that are in place. Flights have been curtailed, and there's also fear in people's minds. So recovery will come eventually because people still want to travel. But it will take some time. It will take probably a few years before we get back to a more predictable, stable path for tourism. In the region, I suspect what we anticipate for the next few years will be a lot more. I think tourism will start first with more essential business travel coming into Singapore and traveling around the region. But gradually, as we begin to have more confidence in other countries' healthcare systems and measures, then we can gradually open up the envelope to other forms of travel, more discretionary leisure travel. Overall, I think the new normal will be a lot more inclined towards safety and health. I suspect a lot more interest in contactless forms of experience. So contactless check-ins at hotels, for example, contactless immigration checkpoints, contactless forms of payments to reduce touch points and make it easier and more safer for visitors. I think there will be at least one form of one direction of the technology initiatives that we will be taking with our tourism enterprises for the future.
Well, Singapore's lack of domestic tourism, if you like, has been cited as one reason why the recovery process can be slower here compared to other countries that have sort of larger populations. Do you agree, and what do you think Singapore or Singaporeans can actually do to help revive tourism here domestically?
I think a lot of Singaporeans will find to their surprise that there are many hidden gems and less well-known spots in Singapore. I was just looking up TripAdvisor for Singapore just before this interview. And you will find, even for myself, I find interesting spots that I wasn't aware of. And I hope that in a time when we work on promoting domestic tourism, which we will have to do as a first step towards recovery, that Singaporeans will be willing to try out new areas, new attractions, try some of the tours that we have been developing over the last several years to try out new aspects of Singapore. So for example, take Chinatown. How many Singaporeans have visited the revamped Chinatown Heritage Center and seen some of the exhibits or gone for some of the tours in the Heritage Center and in the precinct of Chinatown? I would encourage Singaporeans to try out new things and discover things for themselves so that they in turn can become effective advocates for Singapore when international recovery can set in.
Well, thank you so much, Keith, for speaking to us and sharing with us. We're speaking to Keith Tan, Chief Executive of the Singapore Tourism Board.